What up, Random Rockers? 2015, what a year, huh? 2016, from what I've looked up, not a whole hell of a lot yet. There's a lot of interesting things, but just not as much as what we wound up getting out of 2015. Even with certain disappointments, and certain upsetting things, they didn't outweigh what we got out of it. And to sum up, if I'm going to have to go in order of things that I have reviewed, here's how it's going to go. Pillar 1, Love Revolution. Bullet for My Valentine's, Venom. Refused, Freedom. Dustin Kensar, Carry the Fire. So there's some pickups. Better Nature. Ian Fisher, Nero. Gary Clark Journey, the story of Sonny Boy Slim, kind of had to here and there with like the past 3 ones on that. Or 4 or so, I guess, on that one. And the 5 that I would say that were really worth your time, I think the ones that I have reviewed, I think, at least. Beauty, The Awakening. Soul Invictus, Faith No More. Faith No More by Soul Invictus by Faith No More, whatever. 10 Years from Birth to Burial. Baronet, and this was a tough one. Baroness, Purple. Kind of, sort of. Tremonti, Cauterize. However, there are other albums I haven't got to that some will end up being better than Tremonti's Cauterize. And we will get, and some fit at certain points later in between here and there. And that's how we're going to start up with this. And how we're going to start this was we'll be talking about a certain other Christian album that's kind of was better than Pillars, but not nearly as good as POD's. My opinion, everything is subjective, blah, 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 blah. And that album is Red of Beauty and Rage. I think it's a concept, but I'm not entirely sure, even though I think POD did a better job. There are not a whole lot in Christian music I'll be really looking forward to 2016, maybe Switchfoot, but that's it. Probably mention that in my anticipated later. Let's see. Moving on to actually, Darkest Part's a great track. I think the best one on this album. I mean, I could be wrong, but still. Son of a gun, it was an awesome. It's a great effort from them, and it took a little bit for me to adjust to it. Or at least get a better mindset in the music, I guess. Especially starting this review channel. Now, we're moving on to Torch. Restarter. Kind of sounds like Gavin Rossdale if, he got rid of the accent, the lead singer of this band. She's apparently gay. I'm straight as fuck, by the way. And this music sounds, for the most part, straight as fuck. Awesome ITU album. There are better albums out there right now. Probably say so myself. In fact, the track that really gets me interested is this one. And it kind of is what gets you into the rest of the album. And the track is called Minions. When you hear this, you start to think, what happens if the Minions from Despicable Me got all hulked out and started playing music? This would what it'd sound like. And if they were floating on clouds, like puffy pink clouds. Yeah, that just proves a point that the guys in the band is gay, and, the Minions thing, whatever. It's either way. If you're not discriminative gays, especially if you like AFI. Especially when, the 2 guys try to do a black metal project or whatever. I don't care for black metal, so whatever. Moving on. Ken Mode. Success. Awesome album. Awesome album. Better than the previous 2. They keep doing something different a little bit. This one's more, they're usually a hybrid of punk and metal. A noise rock band that hybrids punk and metal into their sound. Their previous records were more metal, or at least to the extent of being considered sludge metal and post-hardcore. This record's more post-hardcore that just happens to have heavy sludgy riffs in the vein of bands like the Melvins. of course, that formula of the Black Flag, and their music was a good tribute towards metal and the sludge metal scene, and metalheads attribute them, but for the most part, they were really punks to begin with, Melvins. And this is kind of shows that earlier, like late 80s, early 90s sort of punk, good noise rock stuff. I mean, even Big Black and all those types of groups. And yes, even the vocals are a bit heavy, and the last track is really hard to deal with lyrically. I mean, saying I like to learn how to kill the nicest man in the world, make them feel uneasy, make them feel strange. Man. And the way they do it with this kind of vocals like this, yes. And oh yeah, viewer discretion advised. Sorry about that. Yeah, I like this track. This is what I mean. Like, hear that and then hear the riffs, and it's like, fucking like, whew. And the Vima vocals are nice too. All the other tracks after those two tracks are actually more solid good tracks. But my favorite of them all has got to be the final track, Dead Actors, because it just reminds me so much of a little bit of Brand New. In like that, in like the, fuck, Brand New, yes. I can't wait for them to come up with a new album. They did have a couple tracks they leaked, and then they did like some cassette of like 2006 leaked demos, which maybe those two tracks were probably from. And I guess 2000. I'm trying to remember what happened within 2000s, between 2006, between those years, between albums specifically. I don't remember, but they're supposed to have a new album eventually coming into the works, and maybe that might be their last for sure. I mean, it's very Fugazi-like, but it definitely feel that Brand New-ish sort of vibe, especially in the vocal treatment, and the guitars are fucking amazing. Like, this is just great for guitarists to listen to. Wonderful, 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 wonderful album. Oh, man. I wish I could air guitar. Moving on. Moving on to Intronaut, The Direction of Last Things. First track here, Fast Rums, is the first you'll hear, and it has some weird thing involves some dolphin. It has nothing to do with the actual song itself. I can't necessarily get into depth on that one, but they're amazing, progressive, sludgy, post-metal type of post-metal type of band, and like experimental and progressive style. Especially more sludgy and just adding other music stuff. This is going back to their more extreme sound though. But I like it enough to where it gets me curious to hear. Like, there's a comparison to another act I mentioned, Baroness, as well as like Mastodon, a lot. I'm not huge on like that kind of stuff unless you got something else going on technically, or like doing other stuff musically thrown in there. You know, hence why I like bands like Faith No More and Mr. Bungle. I'll eventually get to that sometime. But let me see, which track was it again? Oh yes, it was Pleasant Surprise. By that point, I was pleasantly surprised with this album. Especially the riffs on this are awesome, but the unlikely event of a water landing is honestly, especially near the end of it. I just like it better because of the clean vocals too. It's great because of the guitar riffs and stuff, but the ending is that track is amazing. Other than that, for 7 tracks of long progressive type metal sort of stuff, it's pretty solid. Solid effort. Go check this band out. Check out their earlier discography, which I'm told their earlier stuff might be like the last 2 albums might be more closer to mine as well as mine. Maybe your flavor, mine, whatever. Moving on. I don't know why I put Lamb of freaking God. Number 7. Strum and Train. Okay, now you can hear me a little bit more. And I can actually hear some of the words to some extent. Make out the words better when he does his screams and growls and everything. Yeah, it's very like in that Pantera kind of way. And meets Sepultura. Definitely there. definitely that kind of groove and that sort of metal, and maybe with some Hatebreed metalcore kind of thrown in there, but better than that because they put in some more Pantera and Sepultura type stuff. And it's a lot of it is really, really good. It's based around what had happened. Some of it. So other things are some other really ridiculous stuff. Like I think it was, I forgot which track specifically, but some of them, like I think Engage the Machine and I think maybe Delusion Pandemic, had something to do with other things. While some of these have something to do with the Czech Republic's history as well as his time. And this track and 512 have something to do with the bonus tracks on here, Wine and Piss and Nightmare Seeker, The Little Red House, are just as solid too. So for a deluxe edition, go check it out, man. Go check it out. I mean, I can't believe I didn't get into Lamb of God in the first place. I mean, it's my forte of how extreme you should go with metal. Some of it. If I hadn't showed you some of the other stuff that proves the extremes I'm willing to go to within metal. It's just not death or black. I mean, I can deal with like this death or black so much. At least not straightforward. But anyway, this is a great, and some people are like, you mainstream, too good metal. Shut the fuck up, guys. I don't give a fuck about that shit. I give a fuck about good music, and this is a really, really good, solid band that has been around since the last 15 years. Technically 15, I guess. And we never could have, and for an album that we didn't deserve to have, probably because of what had happened with the whole thing with Randy Blythe and that fan during the live show, and then coming back to replacing them in 2012 and for the past 3 years or two, him being incarcerated in that prison, and even all the people up in here stateside were like, this is like Corey Taylor, all those other guys that have performed with them are such bullcrap. Even I think maybe some of the guys that might have been on this album. I mean, Greg Picciotto on Torches, and it was nice. You barely tell much of where he's at on that, but Embers with the end with Chino Moreno and Overlord. Like first, Randy Blythe can actually do clean singing. I wish he could do it a little bit more, but from what he gets out of these growls and stuff, I don't care. It's good. It's still solid, but to show that he can sing and prove that if you take care of your vocals, you may still have some good pipes, right, Phil Anselmo? No Pantera reunion. That's a no. Guns N' Roses don't give a shit. Yeah, that happened. I mean, it's nice they're coming back, but I don't give a shit because for other reasons, but whatever. Moving on now to the albums that matter the most this year for me. Other than Tremonti's Cauterize and stuff, and this album, definitely one of them for sure, as well as Intronauts. Oh, wonderful, wonderful album. Moving on. Intervals, The Shape and Color. This is a great instrumental, and if you want to play Smash Brothers 2 or certain particular games, peppy, like, really get into you, that's kind of the music. And plus, just sit in the car, just like Joe Citriani's stuff used to be back in the day. Speaking of which, that's a good honorable mention that I would like to go check out, being the Supernovas. I mean, something Supernovas. I forgot the name of the album, but it's the recent one from Joe Citriani that came out. That's awesome. This is great. It's just all around great. For short-lived tracks being only 8 tracks, it's just wonderful. And I'm interested in checking out this band just as well as some of these other artists I've mentioned that I haven't had a chance to check out or add to their discography, and I'm like, why haven't I, And we're not done with that, that's for sure. Moving on to... Oh, I have these albums. What was I thinking? My bad, guys. Periphery, Alpha and Omega. Amazing, my favorite tracks. The fuck? This track, Heavy Heart. For the cult imagery that they have for this album, it's pretty solid anyway, but just this album, you need both albums to really complete the album itself. It's honestly, this is their best work, especially if you get like the DVD in Omega. It really helps, give you a better understanding. of what this thought process was of this album. I mean, son of a bitch. Yes. Moving on. Okay, here, a little bit of Priestess, like, awesome track. But either way, that's the softer side of them. But their heavier stuff is very deathy a little bit. But yeah, either way, if you like the way they do variety, like Dillinger Escape Plan does, and another band I'm about to mention in a little bit, then you will like these guys. Moving on to... Fuck it. But keep rolling. Between the Buried and Me, Coma Ecliptic. An even better concept album. Yep. It really is. Wonderful metal album. Progressive metal album. Progressive rock. Very heavy influence. Other than... my goodness gracious. By the time Turn on the Darkness hits, all these tracks, the fourth track will kind of veer you off, but it's still a good solid track. The track following that may not pick up, and those are like the weaker tracks in my opinion. But Turn on the Darkness is when it really kicks in and everything else just fucking flows beautifully together. Wonderful, wonderful album. A lot more clean than... But when the choreo happened, you really kind of get into it. The intensity of it. It's a wonderful album involving some guy in a coma that's in this other world that's in his mind, I guess, or something, like a limbo state. Very interesting album concept. But the best album that has come out this year, I don't care who the fuck you are, including Gene Simmons, fuck you. Fuck you, Gene. Rock and roll isn't dead, and it's a shame that Dave couldn't find a way to prove it to you. Because this guy can, and it's a shame he just couldn't hit enough of a dent stateside like he should have. Damn it. And that is... Steven Wilson. Hand cannot erase. Hand cannot erase this love. Yes, I'm quoting the title track of this album. And in this case, this love is this fucking album. Holy crap. For being the concept that it is, you could kind of make love to it, or you could relax to it in a spa, depending on some of the parts. Other than that, you could rock out to it, but in a good, relaxing, soothing, upbeat kind of way. When it gets heavier, it's just upbeat, energetic. It's not like in your face, trying to be so in your face. It's just, it's more welcoming. Yes. Everything on this album is so great. Steven's vocals, oh, fuck. This is, for a concept like this, as brutal as it is, and heavy as it is, it's the way he handles it with this music that really makes it such a masterpiece. And in the comparisons to The Wall and 2112, especially being considered the Wall of the Facebook generation, or this decade, is gonna have, and anything else happening after this decade, past year, is gonna be tough to follow up after this album, dude. It really is. I've never been so impressed with this album in my life. It's just, it really just, it hits here, man. It really does. It's just hard to find. It's hard, you can find some, but it always finds a way to make up for it. And to where even when you go back to it, you don't care. You kind of just dismiss it. You can't... It's just wonderful, wonderful rock record that proves that rock music should have a place in pop. If not for some of the tracks being as long as they are. You know? But whatever. Overall, greatest stamp of approval is this album, and I can't wait to have it in my physical hands. And if I have to talk a little bit more in depth about it at some point, I guess I will. I fucking will. See the man, signing off. Keep it random, keep it real, and keep it rockin'. Sorry about that. Just got really into this album. Love you guys. Can't wait for 2016 with you guys. Rest of 2016 with you guys and whoever's involved in watching this. I can't wait. It's a lot of... so great.